Hello and welcome to the Galeblade News. In today's story, we are covering M&S, Marks & Spencer, Percy Pig Sweets are to be hit with the Brexit red tape. New Brexit trade rules could mean extra tax on Marks & Spencer's Percy Pig Sweets outside the UK. The sugary treats are made in Germany before being shipped to the UK, then re-exported to M&S outlets in Ireland, France and the Czech Republic. That means they fall foul of complex rules of origin regulations that now govern UK-EU trade. The new border rules introduced last week are already creating problems for exporters and traders, says firms. On Friday, M&S Chief Executive Steve Rowe warned of more red tape and a rise in export costs to some countries. The best example I can give you of that is Percy Pig, he said. Percy Pig is actually manufactured in Germany. If it comes to the UK and we then send it to Ireland, in theory it would have had some tax on it, he added. M&S said it was actively working to mitigate the effects of the rules. Other firms have also warned about the impact of new Brexit trading rules. Parcels giant DPD has suspended some services, while a seafood exporter said the chaos was like being thrown in the cold Atlantic without a life jacket. One export trade body told the BBC there was a growing problem and sense of unease among its members. Shane Brennan, Chief Executive of the Cold Chain Federation, which represents chilled transport and storage companies, said the emerging problems have come despite the amount of cross-border traffic still being quite low. Trade flows are still only about 50% of what we could expect, but even at those levels we are seeing levels of confusion and delays, he told the BBC's Today programme. The feeling is we are building to quite a significant potential disruption. A government spokesman acknowledged that there had been some issues, but said ministers had always been clear there would be some disruption at the end of the transition period. Earlier, Transport Secretary Grant Shapps told the BBC that it was estimated only about 1% of trucks have turned up at ports without the correct paperwork. However, anger is growing among companies whose livelihoods depend on export trade. In a letter on Friday to Business Secretary Alok Sharma, the Scottish salmon producer John Ross Jr. launched a stinging attack on the government's handling of the situation. The firm's sales director Victoria Lee Pearson writes that the company has in recent months had to endure the government issuing a barrage of useless information and absence of factually incorrect information from all government agencies. It amounts, she says, to gross incompetence. So part of the letter mentions, as I write, perishable goods that were dispatched from our facility 5 days ago, headed for France following a process that your department advised, have still not crossed the border. This usually takes only 24 hours because they are consolidated with the produce of other companies, which have not been able to follow the correct procedures due to a knowledge gap directly attributable to your department. Entire trucks are currently being rejected without explanation by the French Customs Authority. Our hauliers have now pulled their services as such a backlog has been created. Our hauliers are not taking on new customers. Today, we've even had confirmation that the IT systems of the UK and France are incompatible. After 4 years, you only established this now. Your so-called deal is worthless if the situation is not fixed immediately, and unless you put in place measures to address the issues that continue to unfold on a daily basis. Moreover, as a seafood exporter, it feels as though our own government has thrown us into the cold Atlantic waters without a life jacket. The UK sealed a trade deal with the European Union on the 24th of December that was billed as preserving its zero tariff and zero quota access to the bloc single market. But major retailers that use the UK as a distribution hub for European businesses could face possible tariffs if they re-export goods to the EU. John Ross is not the only Scottish seafood export suffering. The industry says it has been hit by a perfect storm of Brexit disruption, which could sink a centuries-old industry. These businesses are not transporting toilet rolls or widgets. They're exporting the highest quality perishable seafood, which has a finite window to get to markets in peak condition, said Donna Fordyce, Chief Executive of Seafood Scotland. If the window closes, these consignments go to landfill. She said the sector has already been weakened by COVID-19, the closure of the French border before Christmas, as well as layer upon layer of problems associated with Brexit. The group fears that without exports, the fishing fleet will have no reason to go out. In a very short time, we could see the destruction of a centuries-old market, which contributes significantly to the Scottish economy, added Miss Fordyce. The parcel delivery service DBT UK said it has paused its European road service due to increased burden of customs paperwork for packages heading to the EU, including the Republic of Ireland. DPD said 20% of parcels had incorrect or incomplete data attached, which meant they would have to be returned. In an email to its business customers, the company said that it had been a challenging few days for its international operation and that it would pause and review its service. It plans to restart on the 13th of January. It has now become evident that we have an increased burden with the new, more complex processes and additional customs data we require from you for your parcels destined to Europe, the firm wrote. The boss of one of Wales' largest hauliers said logistical problems have emerged at the Irish border too. Andrew Kinsella, managing director of Gwynedd Shipping, said his company has a backlog of 60 lorries waiting to be shipped to Dublin. He said many hauliers are finding that their customers are not able to generate the special declarations that are needed to ultimately enable a lorry to get onto a ferry. Whilst you don't see queues at ports and terminals, the reality is that these queues are developing elsewhere, in our depot in Holyhead, in our depot in Deeside, and in our depot in Newport in South Wales, and lots of hauliers have depots in the proximity of ports, he said. There are lots of issues about demarcation, about who is going to arrange the export declaration with the UK revenue authorities, who's going to arrange the import declaration, the hauliers then trying to arrange the import safety and security declaration to create an ENS number, which helps you generate a PBN number. So there has been a lot of everyone finding their feet.